On what this guy is seeing. So the linkage bus element number is 07, the one right past the bypass. So it's the manager, what we call the linkage coordinator. So it's polling all these guys and getting the occupied heating, occupied cooling, unoccupied, and then these are the effective set points. And it shows that this unit's occupied, but this temperature here is coming as an average of these right here. And it's actually not an average, it's actually coming from what they call a reference zone. So when this guy polls everybody and finds out who's the worst off, it becomes the reference zone. So that guy, whatever his set points, come here. So that's the guy we're looking at. Now, in that situation where somebody ducked one of these into a computer room that's going to be calling for cooling nonstop, this system will run, and look, let's say this is the computer room. It'll run based off its set points and its zone temperature for 1 hour. And if things haven't changed, it's going to kind of kick that guy off to the side and go back to these other guys.
Okay, that's good.
So if he's off in left field, so that way we're not stuck with one guy forever. But that's really treating the symptom, not the problem. The problem is it should have never been connected to the computer room. On the rooftop unit, inside the iView, which is the little box that's hanging in the computer room, there's a whole list of, let's see if that screen comes up.
What number is that?
Sorry, John.
Take numbers. What's the take number?
Write 'em up.
I think it's box.
I don't think I ever-
Computer's blocking the pop-up.
We never had that screen.
But whoever's furthest from set point is what gets the attention first?
Right.
It should be 2.150.
So let's say all these zones are calling for cooling, like your question there, except for number 3, he wants heat. So its damper is going to, quote, close. Now, closed doesn't mean closed airtight. And we'll look at it. There's a parameter in here that shows what the minimum, just like on a VAV system,
Percentage.
it shows what the minimum, so closed is the minimum position. Then they also have a vent position. So let's say everybody's satisfied. All the dampers are going to go to whatever we put in here as their vent position, let's say 50%. So the air will just keep moving through the space until somebody starts calling for heat or cool. This drawing right here, I keep telling them is wrong, but nobody listens to me. This is the zone damper that's up there. They got it drawn in a box, but all it is a round damper with an actuator on it. This temperature is the supply air that's coming from the rooftop unit. That sensor is actually right here on the inlet side, not on the outlet side. They keep drawing it over there, but that's not where it is. The reason it's on the inlet side is if this guy wants heat, he's looking at that temperature sensor that's on the inlet side of the damper, you know, it's behind the door here. And it's going to say, okay, you want cooling, but the air on the other side of this door is 90 degrees. So even though you want it, we're not going to open the door, because then we're just going to make it worse.
But it's got a minimum.
Right.
So
It's
they're
got a
getting
minimum.
heat.
Now, depending, you know, if you have somebody in a room that's just super temperature sensitive, you may want to set that one to 0 as a
Done
minimum.
that many times.
Like the one
The minimum position is there to keep fresh air coming into the space. They always worry about everybody breathing up all the oxygen. I think all these buildings leak plenty enough that won't ever be a problem. Just like with all this outside air garbage, as I call it these days.
Shut all that down.
For years and years, we brought in at the most 10%, and we didn't have any problems. And then when they had that lawsuit in Florida over mold, we got schools in Houston that are bringing in 35%.
Houston.
And you got the Department of Energy over here saying we need to be more efficient. And an ASHRAE over here saying we need to bring in 35% outside air. Well, in Texas, that costs a lot of money to bring that much air in, especially when you're down in Houston. So if the unit's running in heat and you don't want it, those dampers are going to close to their minimum position. And the way they look at that is if they're calling for heat, the air on the other side of that door has to be above 80 degrees. If they're calling for cooling, the air on the other side of that door has to be 70 degrees or lower. Otherwise, it's just gonna stay closed, and that just keeps it. Usually what we'll do if they duct one of those computer rooms or something or something small that's calling for cooling all the time, we'll take that address and put it out in left field, like down here at the bottom somewhere, because then this guy doesn't see it. If it's not in its sequential order, this guy doesn't know it's there. So we'll take that zone. So in this example, we would take 03 and address it at whatever, 0200 out there in left field down by itself. And then tell this guy you only have 4 zones instead of 5. And that'll keep that guy from skewing it, because the best thing for a zone system is to have like zones. Like, you don't want to take this corner of the building and have 2 outside offices and 2 interior offices is the same, because their zones are in left field. And we see that all the time, not necessarily from the get-go, but they come in and move walls, but nobody ever moves anything in the ceiling. We've had buildings where it was giant cubicle building. You know, you go up to the 10th floor and you get off the elevator, there is no walls. It's all cubicles and glass.
Right.
Then somebody comes and leases it and puts up a bunch of walls. Well, we've had them where they actually sublet the floor, you know, to different tenants. So now the guy on the end has the thermostat for all the way down the west side of the building, which are different tenants. So one guy at a different company has your thermostat.
Oh, yeah.
Now, down here,
So Dave, before you go further, David,
Yep,
like
yep.
like you're saying that one, like I say, we do have the issue with one officer in the front. She's always, cold nature. So she's on that bridge, so I guess eventually we could put her away in the bottom.
well, on hers, if her zone's not out there, like, we could just either set her temperature up, and then I would set her zone minimum position to 0.
Well, what we did, the main damper, we did close it down so it doesn't open up. But when the zone calls,
The manual balancing damper?
the manual opening damper and the 16-inch damper, we set the set point where it doesn't open up 100%.
Right, so the set points will make it, if it's not calling, it'll go to minimum, but we also need to set the minimum damper position to 0. So that the damper,
We
because,
can't shut them? We don't
Yeah.
have to have a 200 CFM or something?
well, ASHRAE says you do. Now, if you want to change it, that's up to
Gotcha.
you.
We even though we
call
set
every day.
even though we set them down to almost 0%, it's just still a leakage that comes in there. Because let's say, for example, during that lunchtime or some reason the other zones are calling or something, or hers just comes on and she still gets a lot of airflow in there.
Do we know which one's hers? What, which number?
Yes, it should be number.
I don't know if I can get there with this one.
Should be 292.
Is that room 292 or
Zone.
zone?
Bus two.
Bus. Well, you probably won't get to it.
Awesome, Brian.
That unit's down right now. I don't know if it open. It might open it. Yeah, it'll open it.
Remember that sensor's outside, it's not in the room though.
All right, Rodney, and Mozilla, do you know how to
But her
disable the
it still
pop-up
controls
blockers?
that her damper, right?
No, I've never even opened that.
But it's just a duct there. It's not a damper.
Is that what it's doing, killing us?
But it comes off the main damper that same zone.
Yeah, but the zone, the
Let's try it.
Is it
the sensor's outside.
that
now.
menu bar below
Nothing to
the
do with
close
room.
properly?
But her duct, the ducts that sensor is part of her ductwork. Remember?
Yeah, but the sensor's not in the same duct.
I know, but the ductwork that connects to that sensor is the same room though. I mean, it could be in her room, it could be outside, but it still connects to that same
All
room.
right, what was that address?
172,
Then you gotta change it.
16.
Wait, what?